and welcome back to my channel. My name is Misty, and of course the channel's name is Speculative Magpie. And I am here to do a book review today. And the book review today we are going to do is Edward Lee's Flesh Gothic. Now, this is my first Edward Lee book, and let's read the synopsis and then we'll come back and talk about it, okay? All right. Hildreth's house isn't like other mansions. One warm night in early spring, 14 people entered Hildreth House labyrinth halls to partake in diabolical debauchery. When the orgy was over, the slaughter began. The next morning, 13 of the revelers were found naked and butchered, dismembered, mutilated. But the 14th body was never found. The screams have faded and the blood has dried, but the house remains. Watching. Now, 5 very special people who have dared to enter the infamous House of Horrors, who or what awaits them, and who will live to tell the tale of Hildreth House ghastly secrets. All right, so this is like I was saying, this is my first Edward Lee. And from what I've heard, this is his mainstream novel. So this is kind of like Edward Lee light, you know. He kind of like held back a little bit on this guy. So I picked this one up because this one is kind of like my jam. Haunted house and sex cults. I don't know what that says about me, but that appears to be kind of what I tend to gravitate towards. Accidentally or on purpose, I don't know. But to be honest, the reason why I picked this book is because it was kind of giving me Mask of the Red Death vibes, you know? And that's like my favorite Poe story. And so I went in this expecting more along the lines of these like spoiled rich people having these, you know, weird sex orgies, and then like, you know, death comes in. I don't know. Edward Lee is like supposed to be the extreme of the extreme. And again, reading this book, I found myself laughing, which, you know, I went on Facebook and asked a horror group on Facebook, am I supposed to laugh while I'm reading this book? And they were like, yeah, you are. Don't get me wrong, there were a couple spots where I was like, ugh. But most of the time it was like, oh my God, seriously? I mean, these people in here were so ridiculous. It was, I don't know. It's just like, I love this book. This book was so much fun. And it was just so weird. I want to talk about it, but I can't because, I mean, if you haven't read Edward Lee, I guess this would be a good place to start. I was going to go with, I think it's called either The Farm or The Pig Farm, but for some reason I went with this one. And I've heard The Pig Farm is supposed to be pretty intense. But yeah, this one was just so ridiculous. It was, all right. So there is all this bad stuff happened, and you're shown the bad stuff, and you're right, it was like, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, I've read worse. I don't know if it's because I like to watch like Japanese horror movies, that extreme off-the-wall horror is just like, okay. I mean, Tokyo Gore Police and stuff like that's pretty fun. But anyway, so, you know, you have the scenes and then that lead right up to the slaughter, and then you move on to the part where these psychics come in, and they're hired by, what is his name? Hildreth's wife. You know, she's like, you have to find out what's going on. It's like 4 psychics and then a writer. And these 4 psychics are just so bizarre. You have, well, one isn't a psychic. He's an ex-priest that quit being a priest because he was gay. and he wanted to have sex with guys, so he quits the priesthood and he's still celibate. So, and then you have I can never say his name. His name is like just mixture of consonants and like vowels. So every time I do that, just but yeah, he was in there. He was like the tech expert. He was an uh, exorcist. And then you had what was her name? She was pretty awesome. I kind of liked her, although she was ridiculous too. Kathleen. Kathleen, I kind of like pictured her like a really hot. It was a chick that was on Maury, that would predict everything, and she just had to have sex like all the time, and she was she was a medium, she was a diviner, she worked with crystals, she did everything, and she used drugs to talk to spirits. And then you had Amelia or something, and she was like this person who would go on these out-of-body experiences that used to work for the government, but she was on drugs now too. But she was celibate because she had to stay celibate because otherwise her powers wouldn't work. And then you had Willis, which was this guy who would touch everything, telekinetic powers. And he was a sex addict, but he couldn't touch anybody because if he touched somebody, then he'd know everything about them. And then like Woolsworth, who was the writer, ex-writer, alcoholic. He was kind of like the main character, but not really. You saw most through his eyes. And so he was suspicious of everybody. And poor guy, he's just like some guy that when all this bad shit started happening, he was like, we should call the police. And everybody was like, there's one in every group. He's not used to this kind of shit. And it was just so funny. I mean, there were buckets of blood and buckets of semen and weird things being used as vibrators, and I'm going to leave that to your imagination. And it was just so funny. I mean, and I want to tell you about this one character in here that I can't, though, because I guess it's supposed to be shocking, but I was reading it in my pre-test room and I just literally lost it. I was laughing so hard because I'm like, what? I mean, I highly recommend this book. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars simply because, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's a 4 or 5 star read, but it's a lot of fun. It is so bizarre. And it's just, all right, spoilers. All right, I'm waving my hands, and I'll wave my hands when I'm done. There's a guy in here. He's a fallen angel, y'all. And he has penises for fingers. I can't even with this book. All right, spoilers are over. But I just can't even with this book. This book is a trip and a half. Yeah, if you're wanting to start with Edward Lee, I guess start with one of his mainstream books, which is this one, and I think The Messenger is also mainstream too. I think that one I'm going to read next, and then I'm going to hit The Pig Farm, and we'll see how that one goes. So I will talk to you guys later, and thank you for coming to this weird review. It's a weird book, and you get a weird review. I'm sorry. That's all I can do for you. Thank you for coming, and I will talk to you later where we can come back and talk some more about some books and things, okay? Bye, y'all.